Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84. Now as you know, or probably know, I normally do my monthly garden tours. I try and do them on the first Sunday of each month. However, today is the 30th of June, which is a Sunday, so I thought rather than wait another week, I like to try and also do the garden tours obviously towards the beginning of the month, i.e. July. So rather than wait until whatever next Sunday is, the 6th or 7th, I thought I'd do the tour today, so slightly earlier. Now I will be battling against my neighbour, as you can probably hear in the background, because if I'm not battling with him cutting plants off my fence, I'm battling with him using lawn mowers and every power tool under the sun on a Sunday. What you can hear is he's attempting to cut his new he's attempting to cut his new lawn at the moment. He had that when he had the garden done. He had a new turf laid down, and he's left it, and the grass is now about a foot tall, the new grass. So he's really left it too long to be able to cut it. So he's only managing to do one strip before he has to stop and empty the grass out of his electric lawnmower. So I think he's left it too long personally, but there we go. He was probably told to leave it by the people who laid the turf, but of course it's growing very fast because of the weather we've had since it was laid, and he's been watering it every day. Anyway, on with the garden tour. So we're going to be interrupted a few times, so we'll see what's what. My Crimson Bonfire peach, most of the peach leaf curlers now gone as the weather gets hotter, but of course it has weakened the plant badly, and once again I think it hasn't got any fruits on it. Frustrating, but that's our climate. There might be one fruit left on it still. Moving on, Medlar's doing okay. Had a couple of branches snapped off it when he cut my kiwi off the fence, but most of the fruit was still intact. Might be enough just about to make some jelly again this year. Hasn't got as many on as I expected, possibly because the weather was a bit funny. Now, referring to the kiwi, if you can hear me over the lawnmower, you can probably see it's now shooting out all over the place again, as I thought it probably would. So it won't be long before it's attaching itself to the fence again. Obviously I've tied it back in places. I'll probably remove that one long stem there, because there's no point having that one shooting up into the air. And hopefully the other shoots that are coming out on the bits that haven't been damaged will fill in and grow across the fence again. Just carrying on as we wander around. This is my white mulberry. This one is Carmen. Got plenty of fruits on it still, which I've been picking and eating almost daily. Perfectly pleasant. You can just pick them straight off the plant and eat them when they're like that. Nice and sweet. Carrying on, we move to my this is Mammoth, this variety of pineapple guava. Now I've got loads of flowers open on it, and I have been cross-pollinating it, attempted to cross-pollinate it with the other varieties, and I'm sure most people will know, but if you don't, these petals are perfectly edible. They have a sweetness to them. Some people absolutely love them. Personally, I'm not overwhelmed with them. I find them very soggy and spongy personally, so while they're edible, I wouldn't be spending hours picking all the petals off, but they are perfectly pleasant. My new male kiwi I've planted in grounds, which is Wiki, is putting out a new shoot at the top, so that's promising. It looks like the roots are getting established. I'll be giving that a water soon. Got plenty of blueberries, which the birds are eating, and I'm picking them as well. Perfectly edible. This one here is Darrow. That's one that's got the most fruits on it this year. This is my seedling pineapple guava here. This is the one I'm using to cross-pollinate the others, because the fruit on it is pretty dreadful, but it does mean that I can, if I want to, I can pick the flowers off which is easy in using a paintbrush. Basically I just pick a flower off that's got pollen on it, then once it's gone past I just pick the whole flower off and walk around and use it to pollinate the other plants. So it's ideal to pollinate. It will probably set some fruit on its own, but the fruit's very small and very poor quality, to be honest. The Achepanthus will be flowering soon, the ones that have got flower buds on them. Next to the pineapple guava, I've got my in-ground pomegranate, unnamed variety, seedling of some sort. Had a lot of flower buds on it, but the weird weather we had at the beginning of June unfortunately has caused nearly all of them to drop. There's a few flowers that are open, but basically they've just been, that's a female actually, but there's been nothing to pollinate them with. No male flowers have opened, so that will just dry up and fall off in the next day or so. Probably you can see above that is my Caesalpinia, which is a subtropical flowering plant that I have just for the flowers. There's nothing edible on it as far as I'm aware. It's most likely poisonous. It's getting a bit tall now, so I might cut it back hard this year. The previous winter it was damaged badly by the cold, but it has grown back. But it didn't flower last year, but this year it's got loads of flowers on it. Moving on, behind the Caesalpinia, I've got my Campsis on the fence. He didn't cut that one down, fortunately. That should be producing flowers, I would say, in the next 3 or 4 weeks. That flowers late summer right through into autumn. In front of it I've got a Buddleia, butterfly bush that I cut back hard, that will be flowering soon. As we move on, this is my Triumph pineapple guava. Now this one flowered a lot earlier than the Mammoth, so there was nothing to cross-pollinate it with. So it's early days at the moment. You can't really be sure if these have set, but they're not dropping off, so it's quite possible. It looks like a bit of swelling on them. It may well be it sets some fruit. Next to it is my in-ground seedling pawpaw, unknown variety of course, because it was by the original supplier, would have been seed grown, but it does fruit for me, or has been fruiting for me, and that's, you can see it's got a little group of fruit set there, which are looking quite good. There's another one back there, and I've also been attempting to graft onto it. This is a graft off my Prima, and at the moment that looks like that's taking, although it is of course early days and I've had grafts fail at a later stage. I think there's another graft there which I think is showing signs of life. That was also a Prima, and I did a third one around here that at present isn't showing any signs of life, so that might be a fail. I have got more signs put on the tree, but I just haven't had time at the moment. I've got flower buds coming up on my Crenum. Only one shoot at the moment, I think there'll be more. Carrying on around, I featured in a video, I think it was today actually, plenty of flower buds on my 2 kapow plants for the first time. I had that one at the back the longest, but it only produced 1 fruit for me in the first year I got it, and then unfortunately it was killed back to the ground in the freeze of winter 22. So I never got any flowers on it last year at all, and this one was planted last year and that's also been flowering, so it looks like I'll get some fruits this year. Next to it I've got a Villarica strawberry which has also got flowers on it, so obviously may well get fruits on that as well. I think they'll be smaller. Next to it is a pineapple guava I planted in ground. This one's Gemini, now starts to open flowers which I've been attempting to pollinate. So that's looking promising as well. And moving to the back, we've got my in-ground cherry guava, strawberry guava. No idea if it's a yellow or red fruited one. The first year I put it in, it flowered, and then that was the winter that it got killed back to the ground because I didn't protect it. And it literally died back to just below ground, and of course it started to grow back last year but didn't flower. Got cut back a little bit this winter, but not too seriously. And again, it's growing, but of course when they get killed back by the cold, you don't get any flowers on them because they need to regrow all this growth. So there's no flowers on it at all this year. In ground I've got my this is my Passiflora incarnata, or Maypop, which has survived the winter and sent out new shoots again. It's growing like crazy. Probably take it about another 3 weeks before we see flowers on it. And obviously, as I've got a Cyrulia planted next to it, which I put in last year, my hope is I'll be able to cross-pollinate the Maypop with the Cyrulia. Down here I've got my little seedling bacon that I planted last year. Thought it had died off over winter, but now it's trying to put out some shoots in the base again. Nothing much is going to amount to that, but it's still nice to see it still alive. We shall see what happens. Moving away from the wall, got my 2 jujubes here, which I moved into big fabric pots this year because I thought that they would do better with a much sandier mix. Now they're just about, so I've got a Lee and a Lang. This one's the Lang and obviously this one's the Lee. I used to have 4, but the other 2 died on me. They're just about to start opening up flower buds, but I mean they really need to be flowering in mid-June to have a good chance of setting fruit. So I'm not expecting any fruit set unless we get a heat wave early in July, because what triggers these to set fruit is hot weather. You really need 26, 27 centigrade and upwards, so high 70s to low 80s as far as I found out from growing them, for the fruits to set. They don't seem to set the flowers when it's only in the low 20s, i.e. mid 70s Fahrenheit. So it is a bit of an issue here, because I think the maturity of the tree also is relevant, but we'll see what happens. Now next to that I've got my Shinziki. This is my Shinziki Asian pear here, and I've pretty much bagged all the fruits this year, because last year I only had a handful of fruits and I lost every single fruit to codling moth. So this year I decided to bag them after they flowered, and I'm hoping that will reduce the likelihood of getting any codling moths. We will see. So far so good. They're not a bad size. I need to make sure I keep watering it consistently, because last year all the fruits split as well because of inconsistent watering. The other Asian pears I've got, this one is Hong Lee, growing nicely. No flowers on it this year. It's going to be another year, because this one I cut back heavily 2 years ago because I thought it was diseased. It's grown back really well, but of course it hasn't flowered again yet, but it will next year on all these spurs it's producing. I've got my in-ground plant, which is the Olympic, also I think I know as Korean Giant. I did leave a fruit on it, but that's no good. That's all split, so that's drying off and going to come off, so we won't get one of those. However, I have got one fruit on my Kumoy, which I've also bagged. That's a Kumoy in the fabric bag here, so I'm hoping that that's going to do okay. And behind it there are no fruits on that one, which is, I think, is that Nijisiki? Let me have a look. That's Nijisiki. No flowers on that this year, or no fruits on it I should say. Carrying on the tour, gonna have a look here. This is my Xanthoxylum here. That's a Szechuan pepper tree. I've repotted it, if you saw that video, and you can see it's got fruit set on it. The part you eat is actually the skins of the fruit when they dry out and turn red, not the seeds inside. But it's got a nice little crop of peppers on it, and I've cut it back, so look, it's putting out loads of side shoots. So this is going to make a lovely bush by next year. looking forward to that. The flowers are almost invisible because they're just tiny little stubs, but at least once the fruits start to form you can see them. Next to it I've got my potted Pennsylvania Golden. No fruits on that this year, that's the pawpaw of course. However, my Prima has got a handful of fruits that have set on it, mostly in 1s and 2s. Obviously it's early days yet, but I'm hoping to get half a dozen fruits off that. And in front of it is my little potted mulberry. That's very overgrown and needs repotting. That one is agate. These berries turn a nice dark red, almost black colour when they're ripe, if they don't get eaten by birds and snails of course. Now I've got a few, obviously I've got quite a lot of persimmons here. Looking at how some of them are wilting, they're going to need a good watering. Some have got some flowers on them, and some this year have not flowered at all for whatever reason. This one here is, I think it's Costata, let me check. This one's a Costata which gave me the first 2 or 3 fruits last year, and if they don't fall off at the moment, it's actually had quite a lot of flower buds on it. Now these do tend to drop in July due to inclement weather conditions, so I need to be consistent with the watering and hopefully the weather will stay warm. Next to it, this one is meant to be Nikita's Gift. Flowered and fruited last year. This year, absolutely not a single bud on it at all, and I'm really thinking of cutting it back really hard and see if I can revitalise it, because I've got nothing to lose, because as it's got no fruits on it, you can see it suffers the problem all the hybrid ones seem to have for me, which is the initial leaves are small and stunted and have this sort of flecking on them, although they don't seem to fall off and they've got no pests on them. But the newer growth, as it comes out, although it's got a little bit of flecking on it, the leaves seem to be full size and healthy. But I think it wouldn't do any harm if I cut this one back really hard and let it completely rejuvenate, which is what happened with the Garretson last year, which is that tall one with the wilting leaves, and that really responded well to being cut back. So I think that's probably a worthwhile consideration, and I'll be watering it in a short while as well. There are flower buds on the Garretson actually. Moving on, that's that there is a jujube, believe it or not, that I grew. It came up as a sucker, and from one of my ones that died, and I've kept it because it may eventually produce fruits which might turn out to be edible, and if not I can graft onto it and hopefully reproduce my jujubes again. Nothing much to report on my potted figs. They're not doing well, not taking well to being potted. There are some main crop figlets developing on some of them, but they don't seem to get to, for me, they don't seem to make it to an edible size in pots, probably because I haven't been feeding them, and I think they need to feed them, but also the roots are just too restricted, I guess, and possibly I've not been watering them enough. You can see them trying to produce figs, but I suspect they won't make it to maturity. Just running back again, this is the carob that I repotted recently, also needs watering. A little bit of growth showing there. I have pinched the tip out, so I'm hoping all these little side shoots will come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It grew like crazy last summer, but since I've repotted it hasn't grown at all, which is somewhat frustrating. Quickly moving along, got some flower, looks like some fruit set on my Chocolatino. I believe the Gyro and the Rojo Brillant have 1 or 2 fruits on them as well. I don't think there's any fruits on my Fuyu this year. It's been a very funny season for the persimmons. There's a little bit of fruit set there on, I think that one might be Russian Beauty. Very small, but you can see they're desperately short of water, and again got this problem of the initial leaves being stunted and spotty, but then the main leaves are okay, but you can see there's definitely some fruit set there, so I'm going to get the hose on that. First flower appeared here on what I think this one's a Coolidge, so I need to find some pollen to pollinate that, and this one's only got handful of flower buds, and again I suppose it's probably pot bound, but at the moment I just haven't got anywhere to repot them, to put them into bigger pots. No problem with the loquats or loquats this year, growing away healthily. I'm really hoping this autumn I'm going to see some flowers on the two of them, as they're both as they are both grafted plants. I have an Oliver and a Mrs. Cookson. I've got them in fabric pots. I'm hoping there'll be enough in there to grow. Don't mention it very often, but I have still got one variegated pineapple guava alive. That's Flambeau. That I think desperately needs repotting, but when I get time to do it remains to be seen. This is a lotus persimmon, a rootstock. I'm not going to bother about keeping that. I'm planning to cut this back soon and try and graft onto it. Cut it right back and see if I can find a suitable scion. I've got some in the fridge that might do the job, because there's no point growing it as a lotus. Just going to pop round the back here, because I've got my Nikita pineapple guava. It's got plenty of flowers on it, so I'd like to be pollinating that, and also the one next to it, which I think I'm going to have to get down and read the label because I can't remember. That one is Unique. That also has some flowers on it, so I need to try and pollinate those. As far as my chocolate vines are concerned, they've got loads and loads of fruit on them. Look at this under here. I don't know if you can see them. There's dozens of fruits. That's my Akebia quinata, and I've got both purple flowered and cream flowered, so it's good cross pollination. So we should have a mix of fruits on it. Plenty to use for juice this year, even though I don't find them particularly tasty. It's my little these are my Chinese kiwi berries even. This is Actinidia isai, and it did have a couple of embryo fruits on it, and unbelievably they're still there. Not sure why the snails haven't eaten them. They're probably not going to grow much because they're tucked away underneath here, but nevertheless the plants are looking quite healthy at the moment, and are growing quite nicely up the fence. Once they get over the fence, of course, they'll grow away like mad. Here's my Morris Nigra. Set a few fruits on it. Don't know if they'll be edible or not because they're very small, but most likely they'll get pinched by the squirrels or birds. I'm not too worried really. There's my blue sausage tree, looking okay this year. I've had problems keeping it alive, but it's not looking too bad now, so I think we're going to be okay with that. Apricot next to it never set any fruits, unfortunately, so no apricots to try, but it's looking quite healthy, so maybe we'll get some next year. This is one of my new persimmons. This was a bare root one that I got very late. I think this was about April, from Yew Garden. Grown away very nicely, needs watering. That's bone dry as well. That's the problem sometimes, you just don't get time to deal with all of these. And behind it is my apple, Family Duo apple I got. That's looking okay. That was bare root as well. No fruits on it of course, but we should see some next year. Now this is one of the two persimmons that I bought myself for a birthday present. This one is vanilla, has got a couple of fruits still sitting on it. I'm expecting them to drop off any day. I don't think any will hold at all this year because it's still in this small pot, but I don't want to repot it until next year. It had about 20 fruits on it, but they normally do get shed, certainly in the first year, and secondly when it's in a pot. So now, and they normally have July fruit drop here, so I think there's zero chance of those making it. And I should imagine, strangely enough, there's one on the Tipo next to it, which was the second one I bought, and strangely enough that's still got the one and only fruit on it, but again I'm not expecting anything to come of that. This is my Chinese gooseberry, or also known as a Chinese melon berry. That's growing really nicely. bit of a spiny monster. Obviously that's really benefited from its repot. Got 2 mulberries next to it that I repotted this year because they were looking so sickly. Haven't really fruited, but at least they're looking healthy now. So this one here is the Illinois Everbearing, and the one up there is the pink Moldovan, or Moldovan pink. Seems to be growing quite well, but frustratingly it's putting out lots of shoots at the top, but nothing lower down the stem again, which is what I really wanted it to do, was to shoot out lower down. I suppose I could bite the bullet and cut it back really hard and see what happens, but I thought I'd get the roots re-established first before I decide to do that. Carrying on, this is this little pineapple guava here is this a mammoth, this one? That's a Triumph. Got a few flowers on it, so that's been doing okay. There's the second one of my Yew Garden persimmons, shooting out nicely as well. We don't know what variety they are. I'm going to assume they're an Asian one looking at the leaves, but obviously we're not going to know until they flower what sort of Asian one they are, but they're grafted, so one would think they're a named variety. Here's another Lotus persimmon rootstock that I'm planning to graft onto. That's big enough to graft onto now. This is the bare root persimmon I've got off Thomas. It's called Karaoke. Doesn't seem to be a named variety, but that's shooting away nicely. I've seen no growth yet on the other bare root one. And I've actually put a polythene bag around it to try and increase the heat and humidity. That's the problem with late bare root persimmons. They can be very slow to put on growth, but I'm not giving up hope on it yet, so we'll see what happens. This is a nectarine I got off him. That's red gold. It's another one that was terrible with peach leaf curl. And in fact, I didn't show you, but what's meant to be a flat one, a donut one, is also been cursed by peach leaf curl, so it's just an ongoing battle. Oh, and this is the second loquat. I forgot that one as well, or loquat. To sort of round off the tour, we'll have a quick look at my in-ground fig tree, which has still got 1 or 2 possible brabers on it. Most of them fell off, but what I wanted to show you is I pruned the whole tree, every single branch on it, about maybe 10 days ago, and now every shoot has got main crop figs coming on it, and they're progressing really nicely. Now I'm hoping obviously the main crops aren't going to fail like the brabers did this year, but every single shoot has got main crop figs coming on it. Now, as I said, I didn't do them methodically by pinching this year. I just thought, oh hell, I'll cut the whole lot back, and it seems to every single one's developed into figs. So it just goes to show sometimes you can be too clever. This Atropanthus is coming out in the flower, which is lovely to see. And this is my Japanese raisin tree. Thought I'd better show that as well. That's doing nicely in a pot. Might be a few years away from flowering still. I don't know how mature they have to be. Oh, well, very quickly, while I think of it, I didn't, behind the mulberry, I forgot to show in this term my in-ground citrus. That's looking very healthy. We don't know for sure whether or not that's from the rootstock or if that's the named variety, but obviously eventually we'll find out. The leaves do have a very strong lemony scent to them, so maybe it is the original Myers lemon it was meant to be, come back from just above the graft. So that was a quick, I say quick tour, still stretches into sort of 27-28 minutes. I didn't get interrupted too many times, and I've managed to keep going, but that's a tour round up of the garden. I haven't shown the persimmons in detail because, to be honest, there's too many to do one at a time, and also it's hard for me to film them because they're packed in so close together. But it looks likely we might get some fruits this year, but some of them have not produced flowers at all. But I think that's because the winter was a bit odd, because we had a cold spell early on, but then we didn't get much cold weather in the latter half of winter. It was quite mild, and I perhaps think that the rainfall was very unpredictable, so it may well have not suited them ideally this year. But when some fruits fail, others sometimes succeed. So hopefully we're going to have plenty of pineapple guavas this year, which I really enjoy anyway. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you weren't put off too much by the lawnmower going on and off next door. It's impossible to find time to film, to be honest, when Biggs is on a Sunday, when he's not doing some kind of work in the garden, which is fair enough because it's his day off as well. So thanks for watching the video. Please do give me a thumbs up, share the video of course, please subscribe to my channel, and remember that if you want to get updates on the progress of plants, you must remember to click on the bell. I'll catch up with you on the next video. Brett out for now.